my opinion is not going to be very... I need to make sure everyone else says their piece before I start saying mine, because I feel like I'm going to go off if I start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anime Club. We're going to be talking about music.
Yes.
Specifically, we're going to be talking about the Fate Zero OPs for Season 1 and somewhat for Season 2.
We're only going to go over the Season 1 one. That way we have something to go over for the last stretch as well for this
All
section.
right.
So just kind of ignore the Season 2 OP and ED.
Yeah, because
in case everyone's wondering about Season 1, Season 2, we watched a few episodes of Season 2 to finish an arc.
Yeah.
But we didn't go more into it, and we're going to be finishing it at a later date, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I don't know if we're getting... if I'm particularly unlucky, maybe not.
I've been the most unlucky one out of the bunch of this new system. Well, I don't want to hear you, NikNak. I don't want to hear you.
Don't piss off some god. We don't know what god.
Maybe I pissed off the thing that appears in episode 13.
We'll get to that when we get to the story.
With that being said, back to music.
Yeah. For the OP, what were your thoughts on that first OP?
I actually liked the first OP for this series. I thought it was catchy, at least. Now, I didn't really pay much attention as far as like what was happening like during the OP, but I definitely liked the song at least. And then
you would. It's the
ED
same singer as Demon Slayers.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then the ED was also pretty good. I liked that one surprisingly. So, yeah, I enjoyed both of them as songs. Within the context of the ED, though, I didn't really, again, watch it, but yeah.
All right. Vorn, why don't you go next?
I watched both of them. The singing was nice. The animation was okay. Slight reuse of some parts. Yeah. It was kind of normal to me.
I'm going to pull a little bit of a Vorn here, and most of this is for me is going to be a comparison to Stay Night because that's my point of reference, and so much better than Stay Night. Honestly, retroactively, this lowers Stay Night's score for me.
See, I told you.
Yeah, and it's not in any way in a list of OPs that I'd look up. Right, it's not something I'm ever going to be looking up specifically. But I will listen to it while I'm watching the show. I'm not going to actively skip it. And it was catchy enough. It wasn't an earworm, but it was catchy enough. The animation was the animation overall is miles better. You know, it's really just like comparing a stop-go cartoon to nicely animated proper CG. It was horrendous in Stay Night, and this is so much better.
Okay. So I'm going to be 100% clear here. My thoughts on the OP are entirely nostalgia fueled. I love this OP. I feel like it conveys, especially as we get further into the show later on, it conveys a good amount of the emotion of the early parts of the show. So it's an OP I actively find myself just kind of randomly humming. That being said, I do realize it is not the best OP for a lot of people, even if it is my personal favorite.
Hang on, though. Nostalgia is something to be taken into account, because I definitely feel nostalgia about a lot of openings to really old shows. Fighting Dreamers is not a masterpiece of music. It's a nice song, but it is in no way a masterpiece of music. But nostalgia should make up for a good point. If a show doesn't inspire nostalgia, it's not really a great show. So by the virtue that it was able to inspire nostalgia, that automatically puts it up a ranking in openings.
Yeah. No, it's removing myself from putting the nostalgia goggles on. It's my favorite OP of my favorite show. So
yeah. That is not to be discounted. I think that's the case with any animation or music or show. Nostalgia is incredibly important because inspiring nostalgia is what keeps viewers coming back to a show.
I guess part of what I like about it is that when it's going through, it gives a good after you know the characters and you're seeing them in that OP, you're able to point out like what's going on, like how the characters and their state of minds in that OP, and it's really hard to explain. I think probably my favorite part of the OP is the big lead up with like the piano at the very beginning. It sort of builds into the song.
Mm-hmm.
As for the ED, I actually completely love the ED without even removing the nostalgia goggles. I think the song's okay, but I love the pictures that play while the ED's going, because you see a lot, like every single one of the characters, like sometimes at the height of their life, sometimes at the lowest points of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's like a little bit of a backstory that if you don't know these characters very well from history, it does show you sort of where they were at in their life at the point where the story is being basing them off of.
Yeah, I actually really liked that part of the ED. I'm sure you knew I would.
Oh yeah, no, I was watching that again. I was like, that seems very Seki.
Me, myself, and I, Seki, am a self-proclaimed and at the moment perpetual student, historian, and archaeologist. And so I specialize in classics. So I absolutely adore anything that kind of, if you're gonna take a reference and not harken back to where it comes from, that almost feels like a waste to me. But Fate in general, I mean, this is really the saving grace for me, is that this is nostalgic to me, but not in regards to anime, in regards to these are the stories that I study and I grew up studying and reading. You know, like I read the Epic of Gilgamesh as a child. Like that was something that I read as a child. And so seeing Gilgamesh as a character, you know, and seeing how he acts and how it's really, really accurate to the part of the story in the Epic of Gilgamesh that he's from. I'm a big fan of that. And I think that was an amazing touch as an ED. The song itself didn't strike me as anything spectacular, but the images were really poignant.
I will say, again, the songs definitely play better on rewatch for me, because it definitely does play to the emotions of, I'll say, the inevitable. Because it's fate. 6 of these servants are going to die.
Yeah.
So there's a level of tragedy to that, I guess.
Yeah.
So and it kind of comes through with the ED. I kind of find it comes with the ED. At the same time, I do have to admit it is at a part of the show where that's not necessarily as poignant. At this point, they're all still boom, explosion, fight each other in these.
It's basically a mythological MMA.
Yeah. That being said, I guess we'll transition into the animation at this point. We're still on the same part.
Yeah. I think a lot. The animation is a lot better. I already mentioned that. And it's weird because I think going into it, I thought it was going to be a lot more similar to Stay Night. I think I had a perception that this was going to be a little bit more of a reboot and less of a...
This is done by the same people who did Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
This is just like one of the early... So Demon Slayer obviously looks better because it's a later work.
Yeah.
But this is like...
You can definitely see the roots, like where it's coming from, and the better foundations than Stay Night had. Like the technical foundations are there, where in Stay Night, they really weren't. Wow, that took me 3 tries. What about, how do you guys feel?
I definitely like the animation a lot more. It feels a lot more fluid and a lot less stiff. And, I mean, granted... Granted, even if you were to give Stay Night's like animation quality, or not Stay Night's animation, Zero's animation quality to Stay Night, that's what I mean. It would definitely make the series like look better, but that doesn't save it from having many character problems.
Yes.
No, that specific series has a lot of characters.
It would just make it...
None of them are with the spirits.
Yeah, we will get there when we get to the character section. I feel like we want to get to the character section.
But let's be clear, all of the spirits are waifu and bae and best characters.
Yeah.
Unequivocally. That is not up for discussion.
There are multiple fight scenes in this series that just like...
Way better.
Yeah, like there's one fight scene in a mansion setting, probably my favorite fight scene like in the series, where it really plays around with like the angles. I like that one. Or well, I'll get into it again later, but there's a fight scene later on that involves Gilgamesh from the previous series and another character in a very unorthodox way. That's just like, what the fuck is this doing in this series? But this is fucking awesome. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more of an over-the-top element to these fight scenes than there was in Stay Night, and I do like that.
Yeah. But Vorn, you've been pretty quiet about the animation.
It's pretty much same as you guys have been saying. It's definitely better than the visual quality of the original
Yeah.
Fate Stay Night, because that was pretty much
Horrendous.
yeah, no, that was supposed to be like freaking those visual novels that you play for the dating sims. Yeah, the plot and
Yeah.
everything else, though, I'll talk about when we get there, because
Yeah.
probably this wasn't the best thing to watch for me currently.
What's going on?
No, just-
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to linger on it too much because I have a feeling I'm probably the only one that's watched this series enough to really like point it out. But the soundtrack to like this air like to Fate, and they keep the same composer throughout the rest of mainline Fate for the most part. I think the composer, she does a wonderful job at this soundtrack, and so many tunes really stick out to me years later. I won't go into too much detail though because that's kind of a hard conversation to have.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
I mean, I think we've all noticed it more, but
Yeah.
I think on the whole, Realm, Vorn and I we kind of just experience the soundtrack as it plays over, and we don't really differentiate it, and we don't actively look for the soundtrack separately, right, guys?
Yeah.
Not unless it's real memorable.
Yeah.
And I will be 100% fair here. This is a result of me rewatching series like this for other series as well. I don't usually look up soundtracks on YouTube. It's when I've rewatched a series enough times to where certain songs or certain not songs pieces sort of now are connected to these moments. So then I can look them up and actually take time to appreciate them separate from the scene.
Which makes sense. I mean, that's entirely fair.
All right. So I guess at this point, do we want to move into the themes in the storyline?
Yeah, we'll
I
see
think
you
that's
back
fair.
there. We'll see you back here for themes and storylines. Try harder.
Yay.